We're going to do something different here today. This should be kind of interesting. I alluded to this in the video I just published the other day. And this is a Martin D35 that I'm working on. It's the 70s. It has right now a temporary wooden saddle. Everything else has been done on the guitar. Whole list of things we'll talk about at the end. And I needed a temporary test saddle. I didn't have a piece of bone on my Carter. All of them were too low for this guitar. So I made one out of, and this is either maple, I think it's maple, and I'll tell you on the top after I take it out and look at it, I'll tell you what it is, but I think it's maple. I made just a quick test saddle in there, I put it in there, and I'm surprised at how good it sounds. So I thought what would be fun to do is I'm going to record it with the maple saddle, and then I'm going to make one out of ebony, and I'm going to put an ebony saddle in here, record that, and then I'll go to bone, and I'll do the regular bone saddle, and we can see what the differences are in sound in there. I think that'll be interesting because I was surprised at how good this sounded. I expected it to be really dead, like a piece of cardboard. It's not. It is surprisingly good sounding. I don't think it's as good as bone, don't get me wrong there, but I'm surprised at how good it sounds. The reason you probably wouldn't want to use a wooden saddle, even no matter how good it sounds, is you might if it sounds really good, but it's going to develop grooves and dents in here pretty bad. Now I'm surprised at how well this is holding up. It's been in here, yeah, it's compressing a little bit, but it's been in here about 2 weeks now, and so I'm surprised at it. So we're going to play a little bit on this. Then I'm going to go make one out of ebony, same height, same everything, and then I'll see what else I can come up with in the shop. But so we're just going to play with widely varying saddle materials here, and maybe I can scare up a piece of my Carter in there. I don't think I have a piece big enough in there because I'm at the remote shop in Los Alamos and I don't have all my 25 years of accumulated junk. So the other shop I have a box full of old saddles, and I would have been able to pull out of my Carter, and I never would have stumbled upon this. And so anyway, I'm doing what I can do here, but I know we're going to compare the wood versus the bone, guaranteed that. So here we go. This is not my new recording setup. I'm at the remote shop. I'm using my old Canon camera, and I'm using my old ATT Pro 24 mic. It's a stereo mic. I've used it for 10 years before getting the new setup. It's not as good as the other setup as the one that you generally watch, but it's pretty good, you know. So we're gonna make do with what we have here. So here we go. What I noticed about the Ebony, well, it's richer, it's woodier sounding. It's deeper sounding to me sitting here playing it than that maple was, and it is maple. The trebles sound pretty good. What I hear when I get to the low end is a tubbiness. You could call it warmth, right in here. Not a lot of bite in there, you know. It's a pleasant sound. It's not a bad sound, but it doesn't have any bite to it. Super warm. It's like a gigantic ebony nut. But I hear it on the low strings, especially when I was doing that. Right there. There's no upper end to it that I hear. At least not, I don't hear the snap that I would hear out of bone and off of the maple. And again, it's not a bad sound. If you were looking for that sort of sound, and I wonder what that would be like on a mahogany guitar where you've got a different set of frequencies. And rosewood guitars, like it's 35, I'm generally trying to bring up the highs. And so this is kind of the opposite direction of what I would want to go. I mean, especially with a hot rosewood bridge on there, I'm trying to bring the highs up on this guitar, and so this is the opposite of which way I wanted to go on it. But I wonder what that would sound like on a mahogany guitar, you know, the D18, or even an all mahogany guitar, a 15 or 17 with a 17, right, with the all mahogany top. It's already kind of a tubby, warm guitar, and I like to run ebony nuts on those. Just because I wonder what an ebony bridge, ebony saddle would sound like on that. So it wouldn't really be my choice of saddle on this guitar, but yeah, it's interesting. It's not bad at all. It's interesting. So let's get the bone. Okay, the last saddle, bone. That's the saddle we pretty much use all the time. As soon as I started playing it, I heard, okay, that's what it's supposed to sound like. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to sound like, That's what it normally sounds like. As soon as I put the bone in, there's the sound that we're used to. You can tell me what you hear, but sitting here like this, it's like, I hear the highs off of the bass strings again. They're not so deep and woofy anymore, There's the crispness and the highs on that. That's what I'm used to hearing. So, that's interesting though, I mean, you could keep that. If you had a guitar that was especially bright, and you wanted to tame down the highs a little bit, one of those wooden saddles might work for you. They're not going to last forever, but they're easy to make. They're easy to replace. And I'm sure you could sand the dents out. You know what I mean? You're going to have to deal with, there's a reason we use the bone. It lasts a long time. It sounds great, all that kind of thing. But it's interesting to know what those wooden saddles sound like. And you might have a use for them. You might come up with a use for them. I'll tell you this, though. I know that on, say, banjos, I'm pointing at a banjo over here, banjos and mandolins typically have an ebony-topped bridge. And I have seen people put bone inserts on those. And I have never liked those. I've always liked the ebony because a banjo, my gosh, is the epitome of a bright instrument. I don't want this thing getting any brighter. And so what I'm saying here is it's got this maple bridge with an ebony top. And I have seen people, in fact, in the case on this banjo, which I just got, there is actually a bone insert on there to make it even brighter. Change the tone. Make it brighter. I don't want it getting brighter. So my experience with banjos and mandolins, where people have experimented with bone tops and fossil ivory tops and all that sort of thing to make these things brighter and brighter and brighter, is that, man, I don't want it brighter and brighter. I want an ebony top on that. I want an ebony top on my mandolin. One mandolin I had, I think I put a Brazilian rosewood saddle. That's the top of it. I put a Brazilian rosewood saddle. But that mandolin needed crisping up a little bit. There was something lacking about it. And actually, I think it was the other way around. I think the high E was really weak on it. So I was trying to give it as much trouble as I could to bring that high E up. And I ended up just selling the mandolin, which is probably the best thing to do, because it did not have that tone. And mandolins are a little tricky to work on than, guitars. I could get the treble out of the guitar because it's easier to change stuff. But a mandolin, a little harder. You got to open up the back or stiffen up the top or, something like that. Harder to do. Anyway, point is, I did have some experience with ebony tops on really bright instruments, the banjo, the mandolin. I prefer ebony tops. So if I had a really, really bright guitar, it's hard to imagine when that bright on a guitar. But it's good to know this stuff because you never know when it might come in handy, For this guitar, it's going to be a bone saddle. And this guitar is done now, except for the fact that the action is a little too high. I did an equi-set on it, and one of my measurements did not agree with the other two. And I got suspicious, and man, I hated to overset that neck, It wanted me to take more off. In other words, what I mean is when I took some stuff off the heel and put the neck on, and it told me it was okay, and I thought, I didn't take enough off the neck, But I don't want to go too far and overset this neck. I would so much rather come back to it again, take the neck off again, take a little bit more. After the top has had time to belly up and get humidified and all that sort of thing. And I can see now that those other two measurements were correct. And that's okay because it's my neck reset. And I didn't glue it in very tight. I didn't use a lot of glue, and the glue is so fresh. I just did this last week. It's going to come apart pretty easy. And I have a little bit more information now to work with on this guitar. So I can see I'm going to need to take about another 5 thousandths or 6 thousandths inch off the heel here. The action's about 105 thousandths of an inch right now, which is just a little too high, especially considering the saddle height is perfect. The guitar's got to be good. So anyway, this guitar is just about done, except for that I got to go back and do the neck reset on it again. No problem. So, I don't know. What do you think? Tell me what you think about the saddle material in there. And, you know, I told you what I think. Sitting here as a player, I was surprised at how good the maple sounded. When I got to the ebony, it sounded a little bit more like what I thought a wooden saddle was going to sound like. It sounded a little bit, it lost something. But the maple, of course, you know, banjo's got a maple bridge on it. So maple is good for getting those highs out. And so, you know, I was surprised at how good that maple sounded. It was thin, though. That was the thing. It was a thin sound. It didn't have the guts that the bone does here. So, you know, bone's the way to go. I mean, I would use bone. There's no question. But it was an interesting experiment, and I can definitely see possibly using a maple for some situations somewhere down the line. So, okay. Got to compare this D35 to another one over here, sitting in the case, that's got an enlarged sound hole. So we're going to talk about whether or not to enlarge the sound hole on this one. We'll see. See you in the next video.